started to prepare for our ride and to prepare for the next course coming up, we need to talk about what is the right way to sit on top of your horse when we get going. I know it may seem really elementary to you, but all of these little tiny things and parts of your form are going to be an indicator of the habits that you have while you ride. If you don't have fantastic habits, you cured right here. It's just like a horse. If the horse can't do it at a walk, at a trot, and a lope, probably can't do it at full speed. So I want you to take a really good look at your posture and check all these little things that may be an indicator of some problems that you've been having in your riding. So the first thing I want to talk about is where your feet are in your stirrups. Before I even get to stirrup length, I'm going to talk about where your feet are. A lot of people hold their feet out. So some of the things that we hear when we first start learning to ride is heels down, toes up. But when you start to run barrels, it's not the most athletic place for you to be. So if you sit way back behind your saddle and you kick your feet out, for a lot of people, this is a really comfortable position. But what it does is it takes all the leverage out of these two pedals that you have that can control your horse. So you want to keep your legs really snug right around their belly. You don't want to put calf pressure on them until you're ready to actually make some moves. But you want them right down there where you can actually utilize a spur, your heel, or your calf pressure. Plus, being right here is going to keep your center of gravity a lot closer to your horse and not make you so susceptible to bounce around and be way out of whack. The next thing I want to talk about is where your foot literally is. So a lot of people will put their feet way in their stirrups and tip their toes down. This is another position similar to this position that's going to make you way out of whack, way out of balance, make it really hard for you to be as athletic as you possibly can be. So the happy medium is balancing the ball of your foot right in the middle of your stirrup. You're not going to want to overemphasize heels down. You're not going to want to overemphasize heels up. You want to be somewhere right in the middle where you're stretching down through your calves. Your knees are not squeezing, but you've got a really good weight distribution from the hip down to the toe. You want to be right in here because this is going to make you the most athletic. Now, what's really great about running barrels is that you can be just a tick sloppier than other equine disciplines. But with that being said, you have to be 10 times more athletic because you're going 35 miles an hour when you're a top-notch professional. So I want you to be really balanced without your hips pointed too forward or way back here. I want you to be somewhere right in the middle where your hip bones are sitting right dead center. You can feel balance in both of your hip bones, both of your feet. You're not putting weight one way or the other. You're just sitting really nice and even. Now, stirrup length is really important. A lot of people that like to sit like this have their stirrups really long. They're actually not able to reach them otherwise. And I have to say, 90% of the people that I help at a clinic, their stirrups are 2 to 4 holes too long. So I think that would be the very first thing that I would go check today when you go to ride your horse, is having your stirrups where you feel like you're doing just a little bit of a squat. You're not jacked up like a jockey. You're not reaching for your stirrups way down. You know the booty pop when you feel like you're out of balance and your horse is really bouncing you around? Typically that's from having stirrups that are way too long. Now, I rarely see stirrups that are way too short, but when you do move them up to this medium position from them being too long, you might get a little bit of soreness in your knees and lower back from just experiencing them in a completely different place. Remember, things that are right outside of your comfort zone are where the great things lie. So things do have to change before they improve. So changing these to here. Now, a lot of people want to sit up in their stirrups like this to check the distance, to see that as a good stirrup height. That's a good rule of thumb when you're just pleasure riding, when you're just riding around. But for us to be the most athletic, we have to have our gear a little bit different. You think about it like this with reins and stirrups. If I'm in a luxury vehicle going to get the groceries, I can drive like this and have my seat way back. But if I'm in a race car going 100 and something miles per hour, I'm going to be really accessible, the steering wheel is going to be really tight, and everything's going to be geared toward it being a lot faster. It's the same with our reins and our stirrups. So the main thing you need to check for is that your reins are not too long, your stirrups are not too long, and everything feels really tight and race ready. I'm going to go through some of the basics of what your posture is going to do as we change through the gaits, walk, trot, and lope. So at a walk, not sitting way slumped down and over. I think that that's one big mistake that I see often. But just having your body be really relaxed and asking your horse to move forward. Now, one big mistake that I see all the time is people kicking their horse to move forward or smooching to their horse. It's the same as jamming on the gas when you are taking off from a stop sign or a green light. Okay, so at a walk, again, I'm not going to jam her into a walk from a dead stop. So as you can see, I'm going to just look forward. I'm going to squeeze with just a little bit of calf pressure, and with some intention, I'm going to push my hand forward. Now there's two ways to trot around on a horse, but the most common way to trot around on a barrel horse is going to be posting. So you want to post, which is just moving from the calf up through your seat at a trot. Now, if you go into the English disciplines, they're actually going to trot on a specific lead, which is going to be with the outside foot that's closest to the wall. They actually trot on a diagonal. Barrel racing, it's not as important, but at the same intention, I'm going to move my body forward, barely squeeze with my calf, and start to move my horse forward. Now, it's really important that this hand that's not doing anything isn't swinging around, isn't on your leg. When I see people with their hand on their leg like this, that just signifies a super beginner to me. So I'm going to train you just like I would train any professional. We're not going to be here with this hand or here. We're going to have a hand that's intentionally on the inside to the hand that's closest. If I'm going left, I'm going to use my left hand. If I'm going right, I'm going to use my right hand. And this hand is not on the back of my saddle. It's not on my hip. It's not on my leg. It's just casually by my side or right here. It's going to keep my hand from making unnecessary motion while my horse is trying to trot around. As I go to accelerate into the lope, or in the English world they call it the canter, I'm going to just squeeze forward with my calves as I ask this horse to go in the same direction. We'll go over leads at a later date, but I'm just going to ride forward. You see that my body has not done any major moving. I'm not doing a whole lot of things that's going to be kicking or squeezing or smooching. I've got my horse sensitive and light enough that she communicates with me in a really simple manner. Now I'm just going to slow my body down, and you'll be able to see that this horse will break down into a trot right when I slow my body down enough. I don't have to do much with my reins. I just have to slow my body down. And you'll see that this horse begins to trot. I'll go right back into my post. I can even slow my body down more. Just sit on my hip bones. I'm still not pulling. You can see I even drop my reins. I'm just in a seated trot. This is not a common position for a barrel racer, so we're not going to go into the seated trot in this course, and then you can just see my horse walk. This is a great thing to practice, walking, trotting, and loping without pulling, especially if you do have the advantage of having a round pin, just because you can start to go through those gears without popping the clutch. You can learn how to really go through all those motions and make your horse as sensitive as possible to what you want. You can teach an old dog new tricks. So if you have a horse that you really have to kick on to make go, you can actually lighten that horse up by just communicating between the two of you, and it all starts with lunging. I can even just woo, and just barely any pressure. You see me rock back just a little bit, not like this, but just here. I'm able to stop my horse right in her tracks. I hope that you guys enjoyed this part of the course, because I feel like this is the most important. When we add 30 miles an hour of speed, deceleration, and acceleration, this part, especially on a really hot pro rodeo 1D type barrel horse, is going to be very instrumental in our success. So if you have a horse that doesn't want to move forward, the worst thing that you can possibly do is push your hands forward and kick like this and keep rocking. It's going to make that horse not want to complete that task. The best thing that you can do is use just a little bit of force incrementally. So if I pushed my hand forward and I squeezed with a little calf pressure and I raised my eyes up and I looked forward and this horse didn't go, I would have a little over and under strung on my saddle, and I would begin to tap my leg. Then I would begin to use mouth, smooching, clucking. Then I would actually swat this horse a couple of times with intention. I would rather not tap a horse 20 times and just be aggressive one time. That way I can be out of this horse's way. I feel like it's more harmful and detrimental to the horse's mental health to tap, 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 tap than to do one big strike and allow this horse the release that we are communicating with each other in the correct way. So don't take off like this. Take off just with intention, eyes up, squeezing on your calf and pushing forward. You can make your horse more sensitive in less than a week by doing the same exercise. Just wash, rinse, and repeat this exact same formula every single day that you're riding if getting through those gears is very difficult. It's okay to go back through these courses several times until you feel like your horse is really ready to graduate. I hope you enjoyed this part of the course, and I can't wait to see your completed assignments. Let's talk proper hand position. So I want you guys to really get this down, because in the majority of the people that I help one-on-one, I find the exact same issues every single time. So when you're riding, you're gonna have your arms right here in a really nice soft L. So you're not gonna be crunched down like this, and I don't wanna see T-Rex arms. This is really, really popular among younger girls. It's almost like a trend to be really stylish. But what's better than being stylish is being a winner. I don't wanna see these T-Rex hands or where you're leaning out like this. I wanna see you right here centered, square shoulders and arms in an L. Thumbs up. You don't have to literally point them up, but if you have your hands right here nice and soft, I typically keep 3 fingers on the reins. You can keep your full hand on the rein, but you want to keep your fingers closed. Too often I see people riding around like this, and it can make you lose a lot of strength because then you're relying on the amount of muscle in the pad of your finger to your knuckle than in the muscle in your entire arm. So horses can tend to get away from people. So when you're riding around, loose and fine is nice. Remember, this hand doesn't need to go here or here. It can be here or right here as you ride around. And the hand placement, you always want to be slid down the rein in one direction or the other. You can see how I have just a little bit of nose tip to the inside as I walk around in this circle, and I'm just asking like this. So it's just a give and take as I go. Just a really nice give and take. I don't have a solid pull on her mouth. I want to be really kind to her, and her comfortability depends on her mood. So if I have a horse that's really aggravated, she's not going to learn as much. So I want to just ask her as I go around the circle for just a little bit of nose. Now I'm going to ask her to stop. I'm going to first rock back just a little bit and put just a little bit of pressure. When I feel all 4 feet come to a stop, I'm going to release. It's the same with backing up. You can make a horse that's really tough in the mouth very soft by finding the release point. So to back up, I'm going to gather, make a little rainbow here in between my hands, and I'm going to ask this horse to move 1 step. If I have a horse that's really terrible about backing up, 1 foot is enough. That would be enough for me. If I have a horse that's just being a little lazy, I'm going to ask for a little bit more. And once I'm satisfied with the softness and the quality of that backing up, I'm going to go ahead and stop her. I think the worst part of things that I have to correct are the hand placement within the turn. Typically what I see is barrel racers that actually move their hands way down here, almost leaning into their hand or pulling it down to their knee. You hear a lot of professionals talking about pulling to your pocket, and that's just indicating that you want your arm in an L. I always think about keeping my hands within a space about this big, so about like a dinner plate. So envision a dinner plate being sat right here. That's about where you want your hands. Now, it's customary for us to be really against this inside hand coming across the neck. However, for some reason, it's just what your body wants to do in a bad situation. We want to go like this. So I want to caution you about getting into that habit about moving off of a barrel. And the best habit you can get into is being really square, picking up a little bit of this rein and asking your horse to move over. While this is an advanced movement, I want you to have it on your mind right now because it'll come into play a lot later and all the time. So when you turn, I want your fingers closed on the rein, not like this. I don't want your hands up here or T-rexed here like this. I want to be really nice and solid here. And then I want your horse to be right here. So see how this is in an L? I'm going to just ask her to turn, and I'm just looking inward to my circle. I'm not leaning to the outside as this can take a lot of motor out of my horse. I'm not leaning to the inside as this can help make me go the wrong direction or hit some barrel. I'm right here in the center, lined up with my horse's saddle horn, shoulders, ears. I'm right in the middle, right here, just like this. My hand is slid down. A lot of people want to be in the middle of their rein, turning like this. As you can see, my horse's head tips to the outside. I'm not going to get a clean turn. I want to be right here, slid down, hand gentle but firm in the middle of the rein. I'm looking for my turn, and I'm sitting really square. Then I can ask my horse to stop in that same motion, and just a nice back up. As you can see, she was a little resistant, so I'm going to ask her for a little bit more firmness. That felt good to me, so I'm going to stop right there. The release point's the most important part of teaching your horse to be really light and to really communicate with you. And as you see, all of these steps have been leading up to the communication for us applying this back to the barrel pattern. So I want you to not hurry through these steps. I want you to really think about every single motion, what you're doing and how your horse is translating that and how you guys are communicating as a team. I hope that you loved this part of your course. I cannot wait to see your worksheet. Make sure and take your time and let's see how you and your horse are communicating so far.